Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to December.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's almost December. Not really. Not quite. Not yet.
I'm not ready for December.
No, I think by the time they'll be listening, it will be December, which means it's almost 2019. Wow. Okay.
I'm not prepared.
We did, the stats today are really disappointing to me.
Poorly.
Yes.
They're very poorly.
Very poorly. 24 shows, out of which written or co-written by women 10, that's a measly 41%, and even measlier is directed, number of episodes 5, which is 21%. You can do better, people.
How can we watch so few?
They were long. They were long. They were long shows.
Right.
Yes. So, two little disclaimers in the beginning.
They're not exactly disclaimers.
Two little announcements.
There we go.
The first one is Louise.
But we just can't translate because we don't know what's bothering her.
Well, what's bothering her is House of Cards. And we have a full discussion on it. But it will be, now that we've watched the final season, we've watched the finale, we'll have a full discussion on it at the end of the show. So if you haven't watched it yet, you will have time to turn off the podcast episode before we start the discussion, which will, of course, have spoilers in it. If you have watched it, please stay and listen to us and then write to us and tell us what you thought about it, because we're very interested. Secondly, we finally saw the favorite.
And
don't tell them.
Oh, I loved it. Wow, how can you not love it? Olivia Colman.
But for more than just we loved it, tune in to our lesbian movie club. Oop, now Louise is playing with a very noisy toy.
You'll be hearing
I oftentimes
Louise
think that there should be a camera attached here to accompany the podcast. Anyway, we're going to do a lesbian movie club about it, which will probably be posted this weekend. So stay tuned, and you will want to watch the discussion. Now, the discussion there will be two parts. So the first part is a review for people who have not seen it yet. So don't worry, you can watch it even if you haven't seen it. The second part will be a discussion for those who have already watched and can tune into spoilers. Okay, so also stay on top of that. Now, time to talk about some TV shows.
Yes. We watched mostly series.
Yes, and we have actually even a theater review today. Today our podcast is very
very
versatile.
Very versatile and eclectic.
And the
series is Escape at Dannemora. And premiered on Showtime Sunday, November 18th.
So we've already had 2 episodes, but we only watched the first, so we'll base our review on the first. But
I forgot that it's not done yet.
No, but you can watch it on Showtime anytime, even if you want to catch up to the first 2. So
okay, it was created by Brett Johnson and Michael Tolkien, 2 guys, obviously, and directed by Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller,
a guy, obviously, and Stiller directed, I think, all of them.
Yes, I think he did.
And it's starring, especially for our purposes, Patricia Arquette, Benicio del Toro, who I like very much, and Paul Dano, who it's a little bit of a different kind of a role for him. He's not quite as creepy as he usually is. I mean, considering he's a prisoner, he's still less creepy than he usually is.
Tell them what it's about.
It's about an escape from Dannemora prison in upstate New York. It really happened.
A couple of years ago, wasn't it?
A few years ago, yes. Yeah. It was about 2 guys who, I think they dug their way out.
But they had help.
Yes, and they had help in a lot of ways from Patricia Arquette, who they wooed. When you look at the town where Dannemora is, it's, I'm sure, like most prison towns, most company towns, it's just a great... Of course, it takes place in the dead of winter.
Yes.
Where even if it were pretty, which it probably is, upstate New York is quite beautiful. It just looks like the ass end of the universe. It really does. And she's married to a bozo, a sweet enough man, but a bozo who also works at the prison. And she's getting her jollies with one of the prisoners. And then I think once this idea of escape hits the 2 guys, it hits Benicio. Mm-hmm. He decides to use her by flirting with her and everything. And as she becomes, she's been their accomplice. It opens with her in custody.
Most people know
prison.
the case from the news. Yeah.
And she was sort of their dupe. Anyway, it's slow.
Yeah.
But Patricia Arquette is so fabulous. She's almost unrecognizable. She put on a little bit more weight, and
and the makeup.
She wears the makeup, and she wears big glasses, and she's still kind of cute. But she has a sort of a walk that is not a Patricia Arquette walk, exactly.
Well, and she purses her lips a certain way. She just obviously really studied the person.
And you see pictures of the person, and there is a resemblance.
But anyway, also in the way that she talks, the way that she carries herself, everything about her, truly, if I didn't know it was her, it would have taken me a long time to figure out who it was. She's wonderful.
Yeah, I love her. And she's, again, the main reason to watch, but of course Benicio del Toro is his usual, even as a very alpha prisoner, his usual charming self. David Morse is also in it, and he's wonderful. He plays a kind of a dodgy guard, but he doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's just...
No, it's just everybody is up for...
Sort of like Smiles, on Dannemora. If he can make a buck to help out a prisoner, he will.
I guess things would never work in prison if guards weren't willing to be paid off.
Yeah, because, prison life would be kind of unbearable. This prison life does not look so bad.
No, not really. Especially when you consider the crimes that those people are in for.
Exactly. This is a federal prison. It's a big crime kind of a prison, and they seem to have quite a bit of outdoor time. And she's head of the Taylor department, and both Benicio and Paul Dano, who's kind of the star of the department, they make uniforms and different things. To
me, the main problem is that it really is very depressing.
One color. It's very depressing. It's prison life. It's what it's supposed to be.
Well, it's prison life.
That's why they call it prison and not camp.
Yes, but if you look at Orange is the New Black, it's not. No.
I don't look at Orange is the New Black, and specifically, that's one of the reasons. It's ridiculous.
No, but they want to make this look as somber as possible because they want you to understand how miserable not even the prisoners' lives are, but the people who work there.
It's just
how miserable their lives are.
The tedium of it, and the grayness of it, and
I think in
the repetition of it.
And I think it makes, for that reason, it makes it kind of a compelling case of, well, I can see why she just needed a little excitement, a little affection, a little something to add to her life. You know?
She's not, I don't think she's going to be unsympathetic in her way.
And they're doing a very good way of establishing that.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's interesting because...
I recommend it. Again, you have to have a little bit of patience because I know.
Just the sound effects that Louise is providing today.
I guess we need to trim her nails again.
She's found something that's in a bag, so that's what you're hearing. Anyway, Escape in Dannemora.
We're so professional.
I think Missy and Louise, when they make their cameos, people are happy, right?
Yes.
So anyway, it's Louise. That's it. It is on Showtime on Sundays.
And you yell at me when I wiggle my papers. Come on.
Well, you don't have as cute whiskers. Anyway, it is on Showtime Sundays. You can catch up to the first two on Showtime anytime and check it out. Yep. It's interesting.
Especially if you're a Patricia Arquette fan.
Okay, now a few weeks ago we told you about an upcoming show that was called The Little Drummer Girl.
Right.
And we saw it. There was actually a marathon. It's 6 episodes, long episodes. So the 6 episodes were... broadcast back to back, leading up to Thanksgiving, and directed
a 3-day event.
And it was an event, and we watched it indeed in 3 days. It was directed by Chan-wook Park, who, if you don't know, if you haven't seen it yet,
you must.
After we recommended it very strongly a couple of years ago, he directed the Korean movie, The Handmaiden.
He's a well-known director.
The lesbian Korean version of Affinity, was it? Or Fingersmith? Fingersmith. Sarah Waters' lesbian miniseries. So
first book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen The Handmaid's Tale, The Handmaid, not The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaiden.
We're getting giddy now.
If you haven't seen The Handmaiden, please check it out. Anyway, it's written by Michael Leslie and Claire Wilson, based on a novel.
Jean Le Carré, a very well-known and popular one, which was a movie, I think, was it in the 70s?
In 1984, they made an American movie starring Diane Keaton. So in the Diane Keaton role, in this British version, stars Florence Pugh, whom we knew nothing about because she's brand new.
Yeah, she was in a couple of things. The thing that now you'll be looking forward to seeing her in is...
Well, we're looking forward to
The Outlaw King.
She's in it.
The new
I
thing
thought you were
about
talking
Robert
about
Bruce.
The Falling.
No. She's going to be the, I think...
Because she was also in a movie called The Falling, which stars also Maisie Williams and Maxine Peake.
Which I can't wait
And I
to
believe
see.
that's on Amazon Prime.
Because I've never seen Maisie Williams in anything but Game of Thrones, so I...
Anyway, Florence Pugh also was nominated for the 2018 BAFTA for Rising Star. So, and I can see why. She's fantastic.
So interesting. She's got, first of all, the sexiest, most fabulous voice.
She does.
I love her voice. And she's not a sort of a normal... I don't know. She's
not a typical star.
Ingenue. She's kind of short, and she's a little... just real.
She looks real.
She looks like a
exactly.
real person.
And I love that
she's
about
quite
her.
darling and sexy. I think I love her. And she's a fantastic actress.
Yes.
I think she's going to be a massive star. She's only like 23, I think. And
she has so much maturity.
I was going to say she eclipses all the men, but of course it's called The Little Drummer Girl. It's not called The Men Around the Little Drummer Girl.
But she is surrounded by a lot of men. Some
Alexander
of them,
Skarsgård, who is just his usual charismatic self, but quite a different role for him.
different.
I feel
Michael Shannon
playing a Michael Shannon role,
and a bunch of Israeli actors.
Yeah,
but also Claire Holman and
who I love.
Lubna Azabal, who you might know from The Honorable Woman.
Yes.
Another, by the way, if you haven't seen it, another miniseries which is just
Superb.
brilliant.
I don't know what it is, but I just read something that was written by the same person who wrote The Honorable Woman. Something new that's coming out.
So if you didn't listen to our previous podcast, why? Then we'll just tell you quickly that this show is about the Israelis recruit a British actress
Mossad.
to infiltrate a Palestinian terrorist cell. And it's a very slow build-up. The first
Very
episode,
slow burn.
The first episode especially, then it picks up. But the first episode also because you're a bit confused about who's against who, what's going on.
But it does pull you in.
It pulls you in, and then it really, you kind of can't stop. You have to know how it ends.
I still have to say I'm not quite sure of her motivation. All the way through, I'm still not quite sure why she did it.
I think that the first episode, especially when they first bring her in and convince her to do this, I think some of the interactions there, and some of the things that they raise, the issues in her life, kind of do make sense to me.
Maybe, and I love the way they draw her in.
Yeah,
that to me is really one of my favorite things about the whole series is how they bring her into their circle.
Mm-hmm. It really is quite clever, and I love the acting. I love her, and I think it was very compelling. And I would recommend it.
They even make the terrorists.
They show both sides.
Both sides of the question. Mm-hmm.
It is true. They show both sides, and they show the humanity of both sides.
Yes.
So The Little Drummer Girl on AMC. I'm sure that it's on demand. You can check it out. Now, just a little aside. Last week we told you about a new lesbian on This Is Us, which, by the way, there was more happening with her this week. This week, we are finally starting to catch up on our Chicago Fire. We are very much behind because, of the Chicagos, I'd say Chicago Med is first. For
Definitely.
us, Chicago
Med
PD
is always first nurse.
I know,
but we've been loving Peds.
Yes, Peds is second. And Chicago Fire has been demoted to third because there's just too much politics.
I mean, when you get to the fires and the people's lives, that's wonderful. But it's always some kind of a political struggle.
Some sort of a villain, a political villain.
Who wants to bring down the chief. And, I don't understand why.
But we do want to tell you about a new female bisexual character.
Adorable.
The character herself is named Emily Foster, and she's played by Annie I hope I'm not butchering this, Eloze. And she is the first LGBT character on any of the Chicago shows since they killed Shay.
Right.
I guess they knew
She's
that
also a paramedic.
She's also a paramedic, and I think that they got such a terrible response after killing Shay that maybe they felt they needed to like cool it off for a little while before introducing somebody new.
Well, I don't know. It took them, I think, awfully long time.
Well, but you know what's interesting?
It would have been pretty obvious, though, had they done it.
It did, though, make it more obvious to me that Chicago PD and Chicago Med don't have... neither of them has an LGBT character, and they've been on for a long time. Yes. So I think, hello, Dick Wolf. It's about time you introduce some.
Dick Wolf is not fond of homosexual characters.
No, and I think that's very obvious in SVU.
Never on their on any of his shows, and when he does have them on, well. He does not do well.
AKA Kathy Griffin on SVU.
Oh my God! Although he's kinder to trans. Gender people.
Yes, well, it's time. It's time he got over himself, or let somebody who knows what they're doing do it. Anyway, though, Chicago Fire.
Right, Dick Wolf needs you to tell him how to do his job because he's so unsuccessful.
I'm telling him how he can improve.
Yes, from our point of view.
So, Mimi, before we proceed to our theater review, you have a problem with something this
week. have a problem, and strangely enough, I have a problem with...
But it's not with the show.
With Queen America, which I adore.
Yeah.
It's with the fact that, for some reason or other, Facebook thinks that they have to bleep the F word or other questionable language. People, this is Facebook. What's the point? I mean, it's like cable. You should have the freedom to say what you want to say. What are they going to do? Sell this to foreign markets that then they can be freer than us poor, pathetic, repressed Americans who can't hear the word fuck without falling over in a dead faint?
To me, it's like if you want to do edgy content like Queen America, which is edgy.
It's semi-edgy. It's not even that edgy, but they talk like people.
I don't see it on a regular network.
Oh, I could see it easily on
really?
Absolutely.
I see it on cable, not on regular network, not on CBS. Maybe on CBS On Demand, but not on CBS.
I don't know.
But if you want to do, if you're Facebook and you can do edgy, I mean, maybe because everything that they've been through recently with, they're trying to be extra super cautious, not to offend anybody.
It's a stupid thing to be extra super cautious on because you're offending me.
I agree. I agree. But we do still love the show. Queen America. It's just the bleeps
take you completely out of.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Are we grown-ups or are we not?
I don't know, Mimi, are you?
I am. 72 years old.
Okay, well, speaking of you being 72 years old, we celebrated your 72nd birthday just recently. And how did we celebrate it?
We went to see the Divine Lincoln Center production of My Fair Lady, which has been running actually quite a while. It started off with Lauren Ambrose, who we had no desire to see in the role. I've seen My Fair Lady performed on the stage.
And I'm a huge Julie Andrews fan.
So many times that it was all I could do not to sing along, and I was mouthing the words. This is a divine production. Absolutely from top to bottom, every single element couldn't be better. It was just 3 hours of joy. But the greatest joy is Laura Benanti as Eliza Doolittle. I'm a good girl, I am. And she was a very, very good girl. She is just brilliant. And the minute we heard she was going to do it over the summer, we immediately got tickets. We got them for my birthday.
Tickets.
Very expensive tickets.
We didn't mind.
First row, we were quite happy. Actually, she sang "Wouldn't It Be Lovely" practically
right
in
to
our
our
laps.
faces. Yes, in our laps.
It was really lovely and loverly.
In fact, one of the cast members, after I posted the My Fair Lady thing, commented and said, "You look like you were having such a good time. We saw you from the stage."
He must have looked at our picture that you had on Instagram. She's just so well. First of all, the whole cast is great. Harry Haddon Patton is just brilliant. He's the best. I think he's better than Rex Harrison. He's the best Professor Higgins I've ever seen.
And we know him, by the way.
You might know him as Bertie on Downton Abbey.
Or as Mimi just said this morning, Downton Alley.
How low they've fallen.
Which is her concept for after the war and everything, they
his
lose
bad
all their
investments.
Money.
Those
they lose
very
all
bad
their
investments
money.
he likes to make, and they've moved to an alley in London behind Covent Garden.
Selling flowers.
Downton Alley. Fortunately, all the girls are married off, so it's okay. Norbert Leobutz, who
is being replaced by Danny Burstyn, who is practically his doppelganger.
One of the two of them plays all of those kinds of parts.
Roles, yes.
Rosemary Harris, who is absolutely delicious. That was previously played by Diana Rigg, and Linda Muggleston, who's wonderful as Mrs. Pearson. Just if you are an Instagram fan, go to Laura Benanti's page and look at the picture she posted of Rosemary Harris as a young woman talking about doppelgangers.
It's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary.
It's like they're the same person.
How much Rosemary Harris and Laura looked like Laura Benanti when she was her age.
Yeah.
It was just almost freaky. And I don't know. I mean, Laura apologized. She said, it's kind of creepy that I'm stalking her. I don't know how it ever occurred to her unless you just happened to see one reading up on her or something.
Yeah.
Harris is 90, and she's
90?
90.
Oh,
she's
my
so
God.
gorgeous. She's so fabulous.
And she does 8 shows a week.
8 shows a week,
my God.
dear.
90. Well, I'll tell you, this was just, when theater gets it right, it's like nothing else. It's an experience unlike anything else. And if you...
Well, Lerner and Lowe got this right
No.
for many,
I'm not
many
talking
years.
about I'm talking about the production.
Really
because,
sublime.
there can be ways to fuck up even the best shows.
Bleep.
So if you happen to be in New York at any point, we urge you.
Or you know you're coming, because I think you'll have to buy those tickets in advance still.
Right. We urge you, if you have one night to see a show or one matinee, whatever, if you have one choice, this is it.
Especially if you're a fan of musicals.
So My Fair Lady, a Lincoln Center production. Now, if you do not want to stick around for the House of Cards discussion, this is our time to bid you adieu.
Adieu.
And please join us next week. And, and if you, at some point...
And the reason you might not want to listen is because you haven't watched it all the way through yet.
Yes.
Let me add, not just because you don't want to hear what we have to say.
No. But if you, at any point, catch up with it and want to, please come back, because this is a finale that I think we need to talk about. And now... Please sign off. And Bye. And you who want to hear the House of Cards discussion, the reason that this finale needs to be discussed is unfortunately not for a good reason.
No, it was a complete bust.
Let me just preface and say that this was the 6th and final season, starring Robin Wright, as you know.
Yes, and Robin Wright directed the
finale.
And she actually did a fantastic job of direction.
She did, and she's directed before, and she's really great. The season also had quite a few other fantastic ladies. Diane Lane.
Yes, I know it sounds very sexist for me to say she's yummy, but
she's yummy in every way.
She's just yummy in every possible way.
Patricia Clarkson again.
Yes,
Constance
not pulling
Zimmer.
out her eyelashes this time.
Constance Zimmer is making a return. Jane Atkinson, poor Jane Atkinson. Athena Karkanis, who you might have also seen in Manifest
and Zoo, and
of course a couple of the important guys in the show this time.
Greg Kinnear.
Still Michael Kelly, as always, throughout the show.
Very much at the center, and Greg Kinnear.
Yes. Now, oh my God,
where do we begin? First of all, here's what I want to say. I found the whole season to be disappointing. It was cold. I love Robin Wright. I think she's magnificent. I was so happy that it was going to be focused on her and not Kevin Spacey. But she plays the entire series, including this very dramatic finale, on one note throughout the entire series. I don't understand it. I
guess they're supposed to.
I know with the way it feels that she was directed that way, of course.
Well, I'm assuming that it's because they want us to think that she's completely devoid of emotion. But she's not.
Diane Lane also had a sort of a stylized way of speaking also.
Yeah. It's all stylized. It's always been stylized.
Yeah, I know.
To me...
Breaking the fourth wall and all that.
Yes. To me, the last 3 seasons were a slog. I kind of felt that the show lost... Okay.
It was repetitious. All it was killing people.
Yes,
to get ahead.
That was the first problem. And as we were talking about yesterday, the minute he threw Zoe off in front of that train,
he was dead to me.
Yes, and then he just kept doing it.
Yes, over and over, and they get away with everything now. At least
literally
Zoe,
with murder.
Yes, at least Zoe, Tom, the people who worked with her as a journalist, they kept at it. They kept her alive in their. They wanted to know what happened.
Yes, but the problem is that to me it's lazy writing. When instead of resolving complicated storylines, you just kill the person.
That's easy.
Then that's easy and it's convenient, and then you don't. They don't have to answer for it, which is insane because the trail of dead bodies that's left behind them leads all in one direction.
You can barely get from one episode to the next without stepping over dead bodies. It's unbelievable. And I know they were probably going for something Greek or Shakespearean.
They kept saying tragedy.
And it was. And, there's a lot of big body counts in Greek tragedy and Shakespeare. And maybe they thought that they were, going for something like that. But I just think it's because they just didn't know what to do with people. And especially, they did not know what to do to end this series.
Well, and they didn't really end the series. They left it wide open, and we read an interview with the writers, and they wanted to leave it up to our imagination, which is the worst cop-out.
Yes. We wanted, since the audience has been with us all this time, we wanted to let the fans have the ending be the way they want it to be. I said, well, gee, do you think that Shakespeare would have been considered the world's greatest dramatist if he had decided to leave his endings up in the air and let the groundlings or the people in the globe, let them decide how to end his
But
plays.
You know what the problem is also? It's not that sometimes in a finale you will introduce a new question, and that you will leave the audience with that. But they left us with questions that we have been asking for 6 years now. You have to bring at least some of those to conclusion because we stayed with you in the hopes of at some point finding out or have some sort of resolution. Now, the other problem is that Frank was Frank.
Yes.
And we always loved Claire more because she had more layers to her. She seemed to have
a little more humanity.
She seemed to have ideals. Frank to me was always an
ambitious man who wanted to become
he
president.
just wanted power. She at least seemed to have some goals, some ideals, and she was ruthless, but at least it seemed like her ruthlessness is a means to an end.
Right.
And so when she became president, I was hoping that we will get a little something different. But what they did was they first turned her into Frank, and then they turned her into Trump. Now,
they turned her into Trump and Lady Macbeth at the same time.
Now, the thing is that to me, it's not even that the whole Kevin Spacey debacle happened in the last minute and they had to all of a sudden change their entire concept of the final season because the fifth season ended with her saying it's my turn. So they were always going to go in that direction anyway. They changed a few things and they killed him and all that stuff, but still, there is no excuse for what they did to her character.
No, and it seemed so promising when she fired the cabinet and had an all-female cabinet. That was thrilling when she seemed to really, really be on a feminist agenda.
When she was the first pregnant president. But I felt that they abused feminism.
I did too. I felt that
she and the show.
Yes, absolutely. She was worse than any male, and she lied, and she... there was all this promise, all this hope, which she dashed. I mean, even her own cabinet were dropping like flies because they couldn't agree with her. They kept on trying.
Was using everybody.
They kept on trying to tell her what to the right thing to do. They had experience in government. They had all.
But at that point, it had nothing to do with actual politics. It was all like a power trip.
She had powerful enemies, which I think were supposed to be the Koch brothers,
right?
And it was
Shepherds.
The Shepherds, which were Greg Kinnear and his sister Diane Lane. Very, very, it's powerful. It was like a shadow government,
which would have been a very interesting thing to explore. Except again, it was all over the top and unbelievable.
Yes, and really and truly, the thing I think that is the very worst about the whole show is there was not a single person to root for. Just the journalists.
Also, if anybody is dead at any point, what is the point to even root for them when you know they're going to be dead?
They're going to be killed, exactly. I think Constance Zimmer's character was the only... Janine was about the only person,
and they left it open.
The only people with any integrity.
Is she going to survive?
Otherwise, everybody else, and a few of her cabinet members, especially the ones that she got rid of.
But nobody had a chance in hell because she was so powerful. And I just want to go back for a second to the feminism issue. The writers said that they wanted to show that in this day of equality, a woman can be just as bad as a man, or just as layered, or just as powerful. I'm so tired of this
yes.
argument. Women don't have to be like men in order to be equal. They can be like women and still be equal.
Exactly. And they can be tough and they can be ruthless if needs be, but I would like to see a little bit of, I would have liked to have seen a little feminine influence.
Especially when she was pregnant.
I think it would have been so much more interesting to see her undergo some sort of a change. When she really was president, to try, as she said she was going to do things in a different way.
Yes, and
not only did she not do them in a different way, she was worse.
And I didn't even think that she needed to be changed because I always thought that she was different. So to me, finally hitting that position of power, I wanted to finally have the payoff of she was like this all this time because she wanted to get there, and now that she's there, now she can do what she wants to do. And we were just talking about it yesterday, that how much more fabulous and interesting it would have been to see her really try to promote a feminist agenda, and for Diane Lane's character, Annette, who also by the end she was also a cold monster, but she in the beginning showed signs of being different from her brother.
More human. She was a childhood friend, by the way.
I would have liked to see them somehow manage to
bring the two sides together.
Yes, to do something new and different that only women can do. Please, people.
Yes.
That would have required imagination.
This was very anti-female, anti-feminist, completely.
And I thought it was lazy and it
boring.
Was so mucky. They didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, murky. I didn't know from 1 second to the next.
The first
what
four
the hell
seasons
was
were
going
just
on.
the first four episodes. We barely got through. It was
really,
so boring.
I kept falling asleep.
It was very boring. Then it picked up, but it was like it was going in circles. They didn't know what they were doing. It was crazy. The only thing that I can say that was really good was the costumes.
Oh, especially her costumes. Oh my God, they had her slightly militaristic
style. Yes,
which were very
wonderful.
stunning and looked great on her.
Yeah, and now when we saw the Q&A with Robin Wright when we were seeing the first episode, the screening, she said that she thought the end was going to shock everybody. I found it to be completely anticlimactic. I didn't find anything shocking about it. The fact that it was the showdown between her and Doug,
Well, the fact, and when we find out who killed Frank, exactly, who cared by that time?
So that is how we felt about it.
Yeah, and we have no idea what's going to happen going forward. And I wanted some kind of a resolution.
Yeah. This was very much,
or at least something pointing the way forward. Yeah. There were so many balls left.
And
in
the same
air.
balls that have been in the air for 6 years.
But even more. Yeah. I mean, it had reached a fever pitch of Claire being almost insane.
Maybe she nuked the entire world after that. Anyway, we would love to know your thoughts and feelings. ladypartstv@gmail.com as always. We're sorry we were a little lengthy, but we thought it deserved this discussion. So thank you for joining us as always. We will see you again next week. Have a wonderful, beautiful week.
Yes, I hope you do. Bye.
Bye.